All right. Welcome to the deep dive.
Yeah.
And today we're going to go deep into Dante's Inferno.
Yeah, but not just like a, typical book report thing.
No, no, not at all.
We're bringing some pretty interesting perspectives with us. We've got Socrates, Joe Rogan, Kanye West, and Nietzsche.
Oh, wow. It's like a who's who of like the ultimate dinner party, from across history.
Exactly, all riffing on this epic journey.
So is Dante giving us like a divine justice system, like the ultimate guide to good and bad and heaven and hell?
Yeah, is it like a divine justice system, or is this just his opportunity to like trash talk his enemies for all of eternity?
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah.
It's like 9 circles of hell,
Okay.
each one representing a different category of sin.
Right.
And Dante, he doesn't hold back on the punishments.
No, he doesn't.
Oh.
And that's where our lineup comes in, right? So you've got like Socrates
Yeah.
questioning the entire idea of like eternal damnation. Really, Dante?
Right.
This is what you came up with. And then you've got Rogan,
Yeah.
fascinated by the sheer creativity of it all.
The spectacle.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
man. That's crazy.
Exactly.
And Kanye, I can only imagine he'd be declaring himself the ruler of some new artistic paradise.
Right, like an easy heaven.
Yeah. This is my heaven. Welcome. You're all invited. It's exclusive.
It's like the VIP section.
Right,
of
exactly.
Nietzsche's game.
And then you got Nietzsche, and, well, he'd probably be just like totally critiquing the whole thing.
Yeah, like turning human suffering into some kind of giant cosmic spreadsheet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like a giant bureaucracy.
A bureaucracy.
So, all right, let's get into it. First stop, Circle 1, Limbo.
All right.
Now, this isn't the limbo you're thinking of.
Right, no party games here.
No, not at all.
Not the limbo you're thinking of.
No stick, no groovy music.
Yeah, this is more like the eternal waiting room
Oh, okay.
for the unbaptized souls.
Oh,
People who like lived a virtuous life, but they didn't get the official like stamp of approval from heaven.
Yeah.
We're talking poets, philosophers,
Hmm.
even babies who died before baptism.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So it's not even like their fault. It's
Yeah.
just like an accident of timing.
Yeah.
I could just see Socrates just wandering around being like, hey, Dante, come on, man. Little holy water is really like the ticket to paradise.
Yeah.
What about everyone who didn't even have the chance, man?
Yeah, it really does make you think, right?
Yeah.
Like, is Dante just laying down the law, or is he also kind of grappling with these bigger questions of,
Yeah.
fate and free will?
Right.
Like, what does it really mean to be a good person?
Yeah, some heavy stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, next up, Circle 2.
Yeah.
Lust.
Yeah.
And things are about to get a little,
Things are going to get a little breezy.
a little breezy.
Yeah.
So what's going on in the Circle of Lust?
So Dante, he paints this picture of these souls getting tossed around in this never-ending windstorm,
Okay.
right? And it's meant to symbolize their lack of control.
Okay.
They just let passion kind of sweep them away.
Right. They were powerless against their desires.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I can almost hear Rogan chiming in here. Man, that wins like addiction.
Right.
It just takes you over. You can't resist it.
You're totally powerless.
Yeah.
It's interesting how he uses the physical environment to actually reflect the internal state of the soul,
Yeah.
Like he doesn't just tell you, oh, they were lustful.
Right.
He makes you feel that like relentless pull
Yeah.
of desire.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay. Speaking of relentless, let's head to Circle 6. Heresy.
All right.
And we're not talking about like questioning pineapple on pizza or something like that.
This is the big leagues.
Yeah.
This is the big leagues of heresy.
Yeah.
We're talking rejecting the core tenets of faith.
Yeah, the hardcore stuff.
Yeah, the real deal.
So what's happening in the Circle of Heresy?
So Dante sets this scene in a fiery tomb,
Okay.
right? And he introduces us to this guy, Farinata,
Okay.
who's this heretic who is like completely unrepentant.
Even defiant in
Yeah.
death.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's hardcore.
Yeah, still going for it.
Can you imagine Kanye in this scenario?
Oh, yeah?
Like, Farinata, man, I feel you. You think you're a rebel. I'm building my own paradise, man. A Yeezy-fied heaven where creativity is everything.
Right. He's like the ultimate influencer of the
Yes.
afterlife.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be really interesting to see them go head to head.
Oh, yeah.
Farinata, the medieval heretic, and Kanye, the self-proclaimed god of creativity.
Right.
Both of them challenging in their own way.
Yeah.
The established order.
Yeah. Okay, buckle up. Things are about to get seriously twisted. We're entering Circle 8. fraud.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like a labyrinth of
His
deception
gilded maze of lies.
with punishments that are tailor-made
Oh, yeah.
for each kind of liar and cheat.
Specific punishments.
So give us some examples.
Okay, so we got hypocrites,
Yeah.
weighed down by these heavy leaden cloaks,
Oh, wow.
flatterers, stuck in excrement,
Ooh, God.
and corrupt politicians.
Well, let me guess. Boiling pitch.
Yeah, you got it.
Incredible.
Taking a little dip
Yeah.
in boiling pitch.
It's like Dante's personal roast of everyone who ever, like, wronged him,
Right.
played out on this, like, cosmic scale.
Exactly.
Yeah. And the imagery is so vivid, it's almost hard to stomach.
Oh, yeah. Definitely not for the faint of heart.
No.
But, this level of detail really shows how seriously he took the sin of deception.
Yeah.
It's not just like a little white lie. It's about the erosion of trust, the
Yeah.
breakdown of society.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, and I know Nietzsche would have a field day with this.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
He'd be all over this.
Yeah, he would totally accuse Dante of creating like a moral bureaucracy.
Exactly.
then-
Turning human weakness into this system
Right,
of
yeah.
divine retribution. Like,
Hey, Dante, maybe you're not the ultimate arbiter of good and evil here, buddy.
right.
Like, take it down a notch.
Like, maybe you should spend some time in therapy.
Yeah, exactly.
Instead of creating.
Instead of creating hell.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, we have reached the bottom of the pit, the ninth and final circle, treachery.
Ooh.
If you thought the other levels were rough,
Yeah.
just wait till you see what he has in store for like the ultimate betrayers.
Yeah. So picture this. This vast frozen wasteland
Okay.
called Cocytus,
Okay.
where the souls of traitors are encased in ice for eternity. Right. And at the very center,
Okay.
you have Satan himself.
Oh, wow.
This monstrous three-headed figure chewing on the most infamous betrayers of all time,
Oh, yeah.
Judas, Brutus, and Cassius.
So it's cold, it's dark,
Yeah.
and you're stuck with like the worst people in history.
The worst of the worst.
Yeah, that's rough.
It's brutal.
Right.
And it's like this frozen tableau
Oh, yeah.
of like absolute despair.
Yeah.
The ultimate consequence of like breaking those bonds of trust.
Right.
And notice how he puts the ultimate act of treachery, betraying your benefactor
Yeah.
at the very heart of hell.
Yeah.
It really speaks volumes about his worldview,
Oh, yeah.
about what he considers like the most egregious violation.
Right. Of like the social contract. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Now, I can't help but wonder how Socrates would react to this, right?
Yeah.
He was all about questioning authority, challenging conventional wisdom.
Right.
Would he see any glimmer of hope in this frozen depth?
Yeah.
Would he believe in redemption, even for these like worst of the worst sinners?
Yeah, it's a question that I think Dante himself is grappling with
Yeah.
throughout the entire Inferno.
Right. Yeah.
Is there a way back from the depths of sin?
Right.
Or are some souls just forever lost?
Yeah. It's a good question.
Yeah.
And it's a question we'll continue to explore as we journey further into Dante's vision of hell.
Exactly.
So stay tuned.
All right, so we're back and we're going deeper into Dante's Inferno.
Yeah, and I still can't get over that image of like the frozen wasteland of treachery.
Right.
Like just super intense.
It's bleak. Yeah, it's bleak. But what's so wild is that Dante manages to weave these like profound philosophical questions
Yeah.
into this incredibly like visceral, almost cinematic
Right.
experience.
Yeah, it's not just like, oh, here's a list of sins and punishment.
Right.
It's like you're there.
You're in
You're
it.
feeling it.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. Like he invented virtual reality before it existed.
totally.
Centuries ahead of his time.
You can like practically feel the heat of the flames on your heels.
Yeah, you can smell the sulfur.
Yeah, exactly.
Hear the screams.
Yeah, and that's what's so amazing about it, right?
Yeah.
It's not just like some boring theological treatise.
Right.
It's like a work of art.
It's a masterpiece
Yeah,
of language and imagery.
totally. Like, remember that scene in Circle 8 where the corrupt politicians are stewing in boiling pitch?
Oh, yeah.
He describes it in such detail.
So gross.
I know, right?
So vivid.
You can almost smell it.
Yeah.
I bet Joe Rogan would be all over that.
Oh, totally.
He'd be like, dude, Dante's descriptions are so intense, it's like a psychedelic trip, man. You're like right there in the heart of darkness.
Yeah. You got to check this out.
Yeah, for sure.
And Rogan's so into like altered states of consciousness and like pushing the boundaries of experience.
Totally.
He would just totally get Dante.
Yeah, he'd appreciate how Dante takes you on a journey.
Right.
Not just through hell, but through the depths of like the human psyche.
Yeah, totally.
Now, speaking of psyche, I'm wondering how much of Dante's own, like, struggles and
Oh,
experiences
yeah.
are, like, reflected in the Inferno. I mean, he was exiled from Florence,
Right.
caught up in all these political battles.
Betrayed by people he trusted.
Yeah, I mean, that had to, like, mess with his head, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You can see that in the work, you know.
Yeah.
It's definitely a work that's like deeply personal.
Right.
You can see him grappling with his own demons,
Yeah.
his own sense of loss and injustice
Right.
as he's creating this elaborate vision of hell. So in a way, it's like his giant therapy session.
Kind of, yeah.
He's working through his stuff.
Yeah, he's processing his pain,
Right.
his anger,
Yeah.
by creating this meticulously detailed catalog
Yeah.
of sin and punishment.
Right. And speaking of that catalog, like Dante's so specific
Yeah.
about the different categories of sin, the punishments that fit the crimes.
Right.
Do you think he was trying to create like a literal roadmap to salvation?
It's possible. I mean, he
Ugh.
was very devout, and he
Mm.
clearly believed in heaven and hell.
Yeah.
But I think it's also about something deeper,
Okay.
about, like, exploring the human condition,
Right.
the choices we make,
Yeah.
and the consequences of those choices.
So it's not just about like who goes where in the afterlife.
Right.
It's about like understand the motivations.
Yeah, the why, like,
Yeah.
what makes us tick.
Yeah, exactly. He's not just interested in describing sinners.
Right.
He wants to understand them. Yeah, okay. I can just imagine Kanye jumping into this conversation.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Right.
He'd be all about it.
Yeah, I don't think he'd be that into the theological implications.
Right. He'd be more focused on the artistic side,
Yes.
the creative vision.
He might even see like Dante's hell as like creative inspiration.
Right, like a blueprint for
Yeah.
his own artistic vision.
Totally. Like, Dante, man, you were a true visionary. You understood the power of spectacle,
Mm.
pushing boundaries,
Right.
and he would totally relate to Dante's exile, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like, they're both rebels fighting against the forces of
Yeah,
conformity.
totally, yeah. Fighting the system.
Yeah, but knowing Kanye, he wouldn't just admire it, right?
Um,
He'd want to one of Dante,
yeah.
create his own version of hell.
A Yeezy-fied inferno.
Yeah.
With even more outrageous punishments.
Yes, and even more extreme imagery.
Over the top.
It's like, Dante, you were good, but I can do better.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
I mean, it's just so fascinating to think about how each of these figures we're talking about,
Yeah.
Socrates, Rogan, Kanye,
Yeah.
would react to Dante's vision.
They all have such different perspectives.
Right, and they bring their own baggage, right?
Totally to
Uh,
the table.
Their own biases, their own experiences.
Right, and that's what makes it so rich,
Like,
right?
it's so multi-layered.
Yeah.
It invites these multiple interpretations.
Yeah, it makes you ask questions.
It challenges you to think
Yeah, for sure.
about the world in new ways.
Okay, so we've talked about the artistic and psychological dimensions.
Right.
But let's not forget the historical context.
Of course.
I mean, 14th century Italy, it wasn't exactly a walk in the park.
No, it was a very chaotic time.
Yeah, political intrigue.
Religious fervor,
Yeah,
power struggles all over the place.
yeah. And you can totally see that reflected in the Inferno, right?
Oh, yeah.
He's not just talking about abstract concepts.
Right, he's also commenting on the social and political issues of the day.
Yeah,
So he's using hell as a metaphor
totally.
for the corruption and hypocrisy
Yeah,
he saw around him.
exactly.
It's like he's saying, look around, people. This is what happens when we let greed and ambition run wild. This is the hell we create for ourselves.
Right, he's holding up a mirror
Yeah.
to his own society.
Yeah. And that's why it still resonates with us today,
Right,
right?
absolutely, yeah.
I mean, we may not be living in 14th century Italy,
Right.
but we can still see the same patterns,
Oh, yeah.
same temptations, the same pitfalls.
Human nature hasn't changed that much.
No, not at all.
Yeah,
You know,
really?
it's like a warning, right?
Yeah.
A cautionary tale about what happens when we let things get out of control.
The dangers of unchecked power, the corrosive effects of sin.
Yeah, but he's also offering a glimmer of hope.
Yeah, he doesn't end his journey in hell.
Right.
He goes through purgatory
Right.
and eventually reaches paradise.
So even though it's full of darkness and despair,
Yeah.
it's ultimately a story about redemption.
Right, about overcoming our flaws
Right.
and reaching a higher state of being.
Precisely. And that's a message that's as relevant today as it was back then.
Absolutely.
I mean, we all have our own personal hells to navigate.
Our own demons to confront.
Yeah, but the Inferno reminds us
Yeah.
that even in the darkest depths,
Yeah.
hope is never truly lost.
Right. Exactly.
Now, before we move on to the final part of our journey,
Okay.
where we'll hear from Nietzsche
Right.
and his undoubtedly fiery take on Dante's masterpiece.
Oh, yeah. He's going to have some thoughts.
Okay, so we're back for the final part of our deep dive into Dante's Inferno.
All right, so we've explored the circles of hell. We've talked about the symbolism.
We even had Kanye designing his own custom Yeezy Inferno.
Right.
It's been a wild ride.
And now it's time to bring in our final guest commentator,
Yeah.
the philosopher who loves to challenge every assumption, Friedrich Nietzsche.
Nietzsche, yeah. Not exactly known for being a big fan of traditional morality, is he?
No, definitely not.
I'm curious to see what he'd make of Dante's whole divine justice system, you know?
I don't think Nietzsche would be handing out any Divine Comedy fan club memberships.
Probably not.
He'd probably see this whole idea of heaven and hell as, a way to control people
Yeah.
through fear and guilt.
Like a cosmic power play.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He'd probably call Dante a cosmic killjoy,
Yeah. Dude, you're taking all the fun out of sinning.
Totally.
Well,
Right.
Yeah.
Nietzsche would argue that we're driven by a will to power, this desire to,
Right.
assert ourselves, create our own values.
Yeah.
And Dante's system with its rigid rules, the punishments,
Right.
it would just seem like a way to suppress that vital life force.
Yeah, totally. Like, don't be so uptight, Dante.
Right.
I can just imagine him looking at the circle of lust being like, Dante, my friend, you seem to have a little bit of a problem with passion.
Right.
Maybe you need to loosen up a little bit.
Maybe you should spend a little time in Circle 2.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So instead of seeing the Inferno as a roadmap to salvation,
Yeah.
Nietzsche would see it as more of a cautionary tale.
Right, about the dangers of following somebody else's moral code.
Right, like, think for yourself, people. Don't let Dante tell you what to do.
Exactly.
Yeah, totally.
He'd encourage us to, question everything,
Right.
create our own meaning, embrace the complexities of life,
Yeah.
and not just resort to these simple categories of good and evil.
Yeah, it's almost like he's saying, Dante, nice try, but you can't put life into neat little boxes.
Right. Life is messy, it's unpredictable.
You can't control it with your little system.
Exactly.
Yeah, and that's where Nietzsche really challenges us.
He makes us think, doesn't he?
Yeah.
About the limits of any system,
Right.
whether it's religious, philosophical, political.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
It's a good reminder that there's always more than one way to interpret something as complex as the Inferno.
Right, and that's why we brought in such a diverse group of commentators.
Yeah, it's been fun. Socrates questioning the justice of it all, Rogan geeking out over the imagery.
Kanye seeing it as inspiration.
Yeah, and Nietzsche challenging us to, think beyond good and evil.
Absolutely.
So, after spending all this time in Dante's Inferno,
Yeah.
what do we take away from it? Is it a guide to salvation, an epic roast, a psychological thriller, a work of art?
Maybe it's all of those things?
Yeah.
And more.
It's definitely made me think.
Me too. It's
Yeah.
a powerful work.
Yeah, for sure.
It's definitely stuck with me.
Well, that wraps up our deep dive into Dante's Inferno. Hope you enjoyed it.
We had a lot of fun.
Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time on The Deep Dive.